With the wonderful tradition of Thanksgiving and all the turkeys that have been slain, with all of the dressing that has been stuffed, and all the pumpkin and sweet potato pies that have been consumed with whipped cream, it is now that we turn the page on Thanksgiving and look to the day after, where college football once again takes precedence and takes center stage. With several teams hoping to vie for the college football playoff and several teams hoping to play disruptor and spoiler, the day that is known as Black Friday is not only the worst shopping day of the year, but it also could be the worst day in a couple of teams' future playoff hopes. Want to find out who they are? Stay tuned to find out on Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Welcome back, Gabbers. Hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I am up doing my thing late, trying to get you this great content before we get settled for the quartet of games that we're going to have tomorrow, all with some form of implications into the college football playoff. Of course, your goblin with the one and only Mr. CeeLo here. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, had a lot of fun, ate lots of pie and so on and so forth. Want to give a big gab out to all the ladies out there that got dirty and had to clean up the kitchen and so on and so forth. Also want to give a gab out to all the fathers, the sons, and the grandkids that also got full and had a really good time watching mama, grandmama, aunties, and sisters do the dirty work. Not to mention the greatest one of all, which is my grandmother, my mom, and my aunts. Love you guys. Thank you guys so much. Big gab out to my family. Love you guys. But the one thing that we were also doing while we were chowing down was watching some Pigskin. Now, if you guys know, I have a professional football channel, which I am going to basically update later on this evening and put my thoughts on the 3 games that happened yesterday, and of course the follow-up to the game that is coming. But we got a little business to take care of right here, because we've got a quartet of games that is going to take center stage tomorrow. And I think you guys know what they are. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, there's some possibilities with these games, guys. Don't overlook them. Because we've already seen Tulane fail, and I just really started getting interested in them, and they failed. So, yeah, but let's get to the business at hand. As many of you have already seen my show that I put up just about a day ago. And, of course, Brad, once again, happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. No, I can't say that. Pony up, Pony Express, you daggum right. Come join the family gab with us. That's right. Come join the family. Bama Boomer Sooner. Yeah, I know. Ashton is definitely better. ND rocks, man. Look, I know ND rocks. I know, bruh. I told you, you gonna keep coming over. You gonna keep coming over. But let us get down to business, shall we? As we look at the first matchup of the day, which comes to us via the Oregon State Beavers and the Boise State Broncos. And I don't know if they moved this game, but I'm telling you, I am really glad if they did move this game, because the truth of the matter is the entire country has not had a chance to see this football team. And they need to get a chance to watch Ashton Jeanty for themselves, because this kid is pretty doggone remarkable. He is a man among boys. He is really a big-time guy. Just want to let you guys know, if you catch me kind of looking off camera, I've got a big screen TV in here, and I'm finishing up watching the Dolphin-Packer game. Just for disclaimer, it doesn't look like I'm looking off key. So, but yeah, guys, when I tell you I do this and I breathe and I live this is not just something I do. But I do it because I love it, and I would love to be able to sit down with a panel and talk about it. Now, looking at the statistics of both squads, I would probably have to say that You've got a Broncos team that scores 41 points a game, and they have a total of 400. They average right at 252 yards on the ground a game. Now, with that being said, do I honestly think that this Oregon State team can handle that? I don't know. They only scored 24 points a game, and they live and die primarily by their running game. They have 195 yards on the ground. They really don't throw the ball effectively. They throw for about 200 yards a game. They have a total of 395 cumulatively when you combine. And then when you look at them defensively, you say to yourself, okay, they give up 215 yards a game. And not to mention this is on the blue turf. Yeah, I'm not looking and seeing if that Oregon State's going to give Boise State much of an issue. Now, however, I will say that I think that Boise State's schedule is a little bit softer than the Oregon State Beavers schedule, as we can pull that up very quick. Got, other than that victory they had last week in that upset against Wazoo, and that game was at home. This is a team that had lost 5 in a row. Yeah, this was a team that was 5-1 before it went on this massive losing streak. They lost by 5 to Nevada, lost by 8 to UNLV, got blown out by the California Bears and Air Force Falcons, and then they ended up losing to San Jose State. So they went on a horrible losing streak after it seemed like everything was just coming together for them. And yeah, they have not been very, very efficient the last couple of weeks. Anthony Hankerson leads the team with 972 yards rushing, but they really don't have much of a passing presence, and that's ultimately been one of their Achilles heels. But then we look at the Boise State Broncos, and this is just a football team that totally has really gotten it together, and they've really started to lean on Jonte more and more and more. And reality is they're waiting for their opportunity to be in the Mountain West Championship game. Right now, they're locked. They're locked. And more than likely, UNLV is going to be locked as well. They're both 7-0. Well, excuse me, Boise 7-0 in conference, and the only loss that UNLV took was to Boise State. So you've got Colorado State at 5-1, UNLV at 5-1. So they're really not locked in just yet. So both teams are going to have to go out there and they're going to win. And needless to say, Boise State would like to get a win rolling into that championship game, because this is not a conference game. They've already punched their ticket. And the biggest thing they would probably want to do is get out of this game as fast as they can and be able to rest some of its starters and not risk them getting hurt. It's even with Ashton Jonte, you want him to be able to get his yardage, but you don't want to get him hurt. I would look at it from this standpoint. This guy is, I don't think, and anybody that thinks Travis Hunter is a threat to Ashton Jonte, they need to have their head examined. I'm just keeping it in perspective. And it's great that both of these two guys are playing on the same day, because you get to see Jonte first, who's got over 2,000 yards.
God damn!
And we can sit here and we can measure the numbers if we want. The two players are going to play 12 games. Travis Hunter more than likely is not going to play unless there's something miraculous happens. We'll talk about that later. But you're talking about a guy in Ashton Jonte who's got 2,062 yards, 27 touchdowns, more than likely is going to go over 30. And this is the problem. You want to say Travis Hunter is the better guy? Listen, if he's the best player in the country, he should get his team to the playoff. Or at least to his conference championship, right? Just saying. Just saying. You can make the argument, please, in the comments. Make your arguments known. Also, Jonte's got 102 yards, so he's got 28 total touchdowns. But ultimately, I'm taking the Boise State Broncos to steamroll this Oregon State football team. As much as I want to say Oregon State's going to pull the upset, I just don't see it. I think Boise State rolls, and they continue their march towards possibly getting a high first-round bye. Yeah, it could be possible. Boise State ends up getting that top-notch first-round bye, and then you're going to see a lot of politics from the committee wanting to put an SEC team that they'll have to face. Exactly. That's my point. Now, the next game on our list, you guys, is going to be the 12 o'clock. What's crazy is you got to pick. You're going to have to pick tomorrow because you got two 12 o'clock games. One's the Oklahoma State. And this is where I really hate the SEC bias, because you could have stuck this game at 3:30. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. And then, I mean, we'll get into that. What I have a problem with is the bias that is here. Colorado fell huge to Kansas in the polls. I have a problem with that, and Ole Miss is only 14th. See, this is where, when this show gets out there, I'm going to challenge a lot of the BS, because here's the reality. You're judging Ole Miss's losses slighter. You're basically lightening the load on their losses, and you're putting their wins up here. Look, here's the thing. Why is Kansas not in this argument now? I will ask anybody that's watching the show, why is Kansas not considered? Because here's the reality. Ole Miss is 8-3. They're 4-3 in the conference. We could argue, you take away their conference schedule, their out-of-conference schedule has been trash. Straight up trash. They have beaten no one outside of the conference. And you could argue they've really beaten nobody in the conference. But this ain't an argument for Ole Miss, not yet. But I'm going to the Colorado game. I'm sorry, I have to get off on this tangent because I do not like the bias that's obvious here. I don't. And many of you don't like it. I know Brad's like me. That's why he's a big fan. He's a good fan of the show. The reality of it is, it needs to be fair. It needs to be fair. But Oklahoma State and Colorado, these are two teams that are really going in different directions. Oklahoma State was a competitor last year, and now all of a sudden they look like an absolute dumpster fire. They are dead last in the Big 12. They are 0-8 in the conference. And this is why I smell an upset here. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to tell you why I smell an upset. Because outside of the TCU, ASU games, and arguably the West Virginia game, they've really been competitive in a lot of these games. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, Colorado's going to blow them out. Well, I mean, here's the reality. Let's look at a very valuable statistic that I don't think needs to be ignored. I think ultimately you have to look at this and you have to say, this might be a problem. This is a stat for me that has been down for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Normally they're a running football team. This year they have been very much a passing offense. And you got a guys like Alan Bowman, who came from is a Texas Tech transfer, has not been able to get it going this season. Ollie Gordon, who was I don't know, was he a winner of the Doak Walker Award last year? Oh, this guy was one of the top running backs in the country, you guys. Only 870 yards on the season. That's not Oklahoma State football. These guys want to run the football. They're throwing entirely too much. And a lot of it is because they get in the hole so fast. Then you look at the counter of the offense of the Colorado Buffaloes, who can't run the football either. And the reality of it is, when I look at this team, when I would look at either one of these teams, the questions I have to ask are, can these teams really stop each other? And I'm going to be honest with you, to me, this football team, and I'm referring to the Colorado Buffaloes, they can get into the playoff. Sure, they could get into the playoff. But they wouldn't stand a chance, because the reality of it is they can't stop anybody. They cannot stop anybody. And when you start looking at where these teams rank defensively, now they'll get some stops. That's not a debate. The debate's not whether or not they'll get stops. The question is, can they get stops when they have to? And when I was getting my notes ready for this game, the biggest problem I see with Colorado is they still cannot run the football, and they still struggle stopping the run. And this is why I keep saying Deion Sanders needs to stop talking about we coming. No, you're not there. Stop saying you coming until you get there. People get tired of hearing you saying we coming and you ain't getting there. That's just like right now. Your opponents are running for 106 yards. They're doubling up what you're doing. They're doubling up what you're doing, and that is not good. They're doubling up what you are doing on the season, and when you're doing that, like their teams are running for 156 on you, and Kansas just mauled over you. Daddy Neal just did y'all in. Now, I'm going to say it like this. Ollie Gordon ain't done. Y'all better remember, Ollie Gordon was one of the top 3 running backs in the country. That would be nothing more for this team to come out there and do exactly what they did for Oklahoma State to come out there and do exactly what Kansas did. And see, that's not what you want to see if you're Deion Sanders, because the reality of it is, in order to play this game, and this game being college football, you have to be able to stop somebody. You have to be able to stop somebody. And Deion has not shown he and his football team can consistently stop teams. I challenge the fact as to whether or not they can do this. And the truth of the matter is, I don't think they can. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to question whether or not I know what I'm talking about. But the truth of the matter is, it's not about whether I know what I'm talking about. It's a fact that this football team can't get it done. I mean, looking at the defensive statistics of the Oklahoma State, you look and you say, this is a team that is 116th in yards per pass. And yards per game, they're dead last. So you're looking at 2 teams that are really bad at their collective strengths. And you have to ask yourself, can either one of these, is this going to be one of those games where both teams are going at each other and they're just going to be all over the place points-wise? This could be a very fun football game. And looking at it, all you could say, if you really want to get technical, looking at both of these teams, their defense is both bad on both ends. Now, I will say this, looking at this, Oklahoma State's defense as a whole has not been very good. They can't stop the run either, and they can't run the football. So I will say this, if Colorado can run the football, this is a double whammy for Oklahoma State, because really the offensive line is not doing a very good job this year. Now, Alan Bowman has shown signs of being able to do some things, but ultimately they're going to have to get pressure on Shedeur Sanders, and they're going to have to keep them in situations where the run game is not a plus for Colorado. Because if the run game becomes a plus for them, then you got a serious issue when you start talking about trying to stop this team. Because as I said, they give up more points over the last couple of games, and this looked like a totally different team. Mike Gundy's Oklahoma State Cowboys looked like a totally different team just about 6 weeks ago. But I will say, I think Colorado wins because it's in their building, but don't be surprised if Mike Gundy and the Cowboys and Ollie Gordon come out there and they ball out. Would not be surprised if I saw Ollie Gordon and company go in there and they just ball out. But I'm ultimately taking the Buffaloes to go in there and possibly clinch a berth. This game has no kind of relevance to the actual conference. This is just one of those out-of-conference matchups that was set up. So let us move on to the Egg Bowl, which is probably going to be a laughing stock, being that the game is in Oxford. And honestly, I'm not looking forward to it. I think this was the worst game to put at 3:30. I don't know what knuckleheads decided this game was going to be at 3:30. Should have been a 12 o'clock game or 1 o'clock game, but it certainly shouldn't have been the 3:30 game. This is going to be a total laugh fest. It'll probably give me a chance to go out and get do a little bit of Black Friday shopping before the nightcap. But needless to say, I'm looking forward to seeing how Lane Kiffin bounces back. As I said before, not impressed with the way the pollsters handled this situation. You've lost to unranked Kentucky, whom everybody sits here and says that they're this, that, and the other. And as of right now, Kentucky is 4-7. No disrespect to anyone that is a Kentucky fan, but when you sit there and you say this team's got a real good defense, and they are still 4-7 at the end of the day. And then you lose to an LSU team that has turned out to be not what they seem to be, and you're making excuses for teams because they play in a conference. And I've said this many times before: if you don't like your conference, get out. Nobody's forcing you to stay there. LSU is 7-4. So I don't like hearing all this bickering and complaining. Stop all with the complaining. You are what your schedule says you are. And the reality of it is Ole Miss keeps getting, much like Alabama, they keep getting pushes. And the same with LSU. And the reality of it is when you are what your schedule says you are. And to lose to a Florida team and then have the nerve to want to get off, that's not our problem. Other teams are winning their games. I don't care what your complaints are. You have no complaints. The reality of it is you should be winning if you want to be considered one of the best. Okay? To me, it shouldn't be about, okay, well, I played good this week. I played good that week. It shouldn't matter. And that's why when Stephen A. Smith said something about it going to 16 teams, maybe it needs to. And the reality of it is you're sitting here placing one Ole Miss up, and that's not suiting well with me because you've lost games to teams that don't even – I'm just sitting here scratching my head, and it's just incomprehensible. You drop 5 spots to be losing to an unranked team. Same thing with Alabama. This is ridiculous. You drop them 5 spots – and then you got a South Carolina team that's lost 3 games. You put them up 3. Are we serious right now? Arizona State, who's lost 2 games and would probably beat either one of these 3 teams. You heard me. I said it. And then you boost Clemson all the way back up there. Who the heck have they beaten? And they probably going to get beat by South Carolina. This is the problem. You guys are setting it up so you can have a bunch of these Southeastern Conference teams in here. Meanwhile, you're losing to Florida. You're losing to Vanderbilt. You're losing to Kentucky. And then you want to sit there and you want to clown teams like Indiana because they go in the horseshoe and lose. Let's not forget, and Brad, I'm not putting you out there, Georgia lost big time by 18 points to Ole Miss. Okay? This is the same team that has lost 3 games to 2 games to unranked opponents. Yeah. 2 unranked teams. And this is the problem I have with this. You're sitting here saying, Ole Miss can beat anybody. Ole Miss can beat anybody. Okay. We don't think losses matter. Look, if you're going to call it like this, okay, then why don't we have Kentucky in there? Ole Miss, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, they show up for these games, but then they turn around and they shit the bed against Kentucky and Florida. What is the issue here? Not to mention Kentucky beat them in Oxford. This game here is a joke. That's all I'm going to say. Mississippi State game is going to be a joke. It would not surprise me if Mississippi State played them close for about half the first quarter and then it's a blowout. Let's move on to the University of Georgia hosting the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Now, Brad, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you, buddy. Don't snooze on them Jackets. And for anybody that's a Georgia fan, if you snooze on these Jackets, my man Romello will hurt your feelings. I am telling you right now, this is going to be a game. I'm not calling it for the upset special. Now, everybody's picking Georgia to win this football game. I'm not so sure. Everybody's picking Georgia to win this football game. Like I said, I'm not so sure. Because here's the truth of the matter. Georgia's offense is 51st in yards per game. Rushing yards, they're 189th. They're 17th in the nation in passing yards. Here's the real big deal. When you start looking at this team, they've given up they're 72nd in points allowed. And they're now looking at the Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket offense. You're looking at an offense that they rush for 4.8 yards a carry. kind of counterintuitive when you look at what the Georgia Bulldogs do. They give up 3.8. So Georgia, who's not been overly strong against the run like they've been in the past, and they've struggled with scrambling quarterbacks or rushing quarterbacks. This could be a huge advantage for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. If they can get pressure on Carson Beck, and my man Romello Height can have himself a game like he had against Miami, this could be a situation where the Bulldogs find themselves beaten. And here's the problem I have if Georgia does lose. Sorry, Brad. Because they're going to the SEC title game. This has to be a situation where Ole Miss and Alabama don't have a chance to get in. You cannot keep sacrificing other teams, because they play in the SEC. And I'm going to talk about this because Ole Miss has got 2 bad losses, and everybody's already talking about if Notre Dame loses to USC, they should be out when they lost a close game to Northern Illinois and the quarterback had a bum shoulder. See, the problem you run into is when you start talking to people that don't know the game and all they want to do is they want to have their biases. And same thing with Penn State. Penn State hasn't beaten anybody, but yet you would keep them at number 4. You keep them in that spot. Now, I can argue with Ohio State, but Ohio State has played Oregon close. Now, you can't just say that anymore because they had a scare last week. But overall, I expect to see Carson Beck if Georgia's offensive line can keep the pocket clean, this could be a huge day for him because honestly, the defensive backs for Georgia Tech are very scrappy, but they don't really strike any fear in you. They do, however, have a couple of guys such as Eric Singleton Jr., and Malik Rutherford, that if they can get the ball out of there, they're short and they're shifty kind of guys. They're not really big receivers, which is something you need against Georgia. You need big guys. And as I said, you're looking at guys in Georgia Tech's backfield that are very good at getting to the quarterback. And their numbers are not going to jump out at you, but you got Kyle Efford and you got Romello Height and Tatum. With 2.5 sacks apiece. And Height was huge in that Miami upset. But in order for Tech to be able to win this football game, they're going to have to control the clock. And the truth is they're going to have to be able to control the clock. They're going to have to get to Beck. And as I said, they've got Haynes King's he's got 200 attempts on the season, passing the football for 1607. His passing has gotten a little bit better, but they primarily use him to run the football. As I said, Haynes King with 468 on the year, 8 touchdowns. Jamal Haynes has 717 yards on the ground for the year. And as I said, Zach Pyron has turned into the guy that they've been using as of late. He's up and down. He can't make mistakes in this one. I think ultimately what the Georgia Tech is going to try to do is they're going to put Haynes King out there. And they're going to basically see if they can wear Georgia down and see if they're going to be capable of getting Georgia to make a mistake. And I look at it from this standpoint. If they can do it, because they came off of a huge win last week, 30-29. And needless to say, when you can do that and make plays when you need them, like they did, and hit a field goal to finish things off. And as I said, you've got Haynes King and you've got Aaron Philo, who's doing a phenomenal job coming in there and getting things done. Like I said, his 18-yard touchdown scramble at the end of the right there near the end of regulation was huge. So I'm just going to be of the mindset if the Yellow Jackets can control the pace and get inside the red zone and keep the game, like 3-3. Haynes King comes in, you get 3. Haynes King come in, and you're just eating up clock. I think ultimately that plays into Georgia Tech's wheelhouse. That's what you want to do. You want to be able to come in, and you want to be able to let him be the catalyst for what you want to do. You know, they want to eat up clock. That's exactly what they want to do. They want to eat up a lot of clock, and they want to be able to keep your offense off the field. I will say this. Do I think Tech wins this game? It's in Athens, so you really can't. It's going to be an unpredictable day. If it would have been a game that was ultimately in Georgia, if it was in Atlanta, I would say Tech's going to win this game. But it's in Athens, and I'm not saying they can't slip up. Not saying they can't slip up, but it's improbable to see them slip up. And let me turn that off. I don't like looking at Kirby Smart. He's a big crybaby. He's still a big old crybaby. I think ultimately this is going to be a game that if Georgia does not put Georgia Tech away, they could lose. Georgia has to start instituting the run. And then for some reason they are terrified of the run, and I don't know why. But ultimately Georgia's going to have to run the football in this game and try to get some semblance of the run game going up until the playoff comes up. Beck's thrown 392 passes on the year. Nick Frazier's got 537 on the ground, and this is not like the Georgia offense that we've seen in the past. They run the football, and now all of a sudden you don't even see it anymore. I'm gonna tell you that's not gonna be very good for the Bulldogs in the playoff. You got to be able to run the football, and I'm not seeing it. As I'm not sure if Trevor Etienne is gonna make this game. I've heard rumors that he's gonna dress, but it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't. But as I said, Beck better be at his best, because right now, Tech smells it. They want it. They're very close to being there. Don't be surprised, Brad, if Haynes King does his thing. And Fallow's not that bad either. But let me know what you guys think. Once again, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Y'all guys be safe. Also, comment down below once you join the show and let me know who you are. Other thing, also, go to the Facebook page at Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Join the Gridiron Gab family. And also find out the other things that we got going on. If you want to put a post up there, please do so. As well as go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo, and you can find out the other things that I'm involved in. But until the next time, stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving. Same Gab channel, same Gab platform.